When a financial crisis hit in the US and the Western world in 2007, it hit the ordinary citizens the hardest. While banks and businesses deemed too big to fail were bailed out by the governments, many taxpayers saw the foreclosure of their houses by those very banks. In the United States, the schism was too wide to ignore. It was increasingly made clear to all that in times of crisis, the wealthy 1% would be safe. The government would come to their rescue. This is while the rest of the people, the 99%, would be on their own. The Occupy Wall Street movement rose in large part as a result of that understanding, and in small but important ways, it managed to change America. More than 2 decades after it was born on the streets of New York, we're taking a look back at the popular movement in a nutshell. The Occupy Wall Street movement began in earnest on September 17, 2011, when initially between 100 to 200 people set up an encampment at the Zuccotti Park in New York City's Wall Street financial district. The mainly young participants meant their act to be one of protest, but they looked to more than political statements and sought actual change by engaging in physical occupation. They picked the Wall Street first and foremost because they held corporate institutions mostly responsible for the financial crisis and the worsening of living standards of the 99% of the American population. While the Occupy Wall Street movement did not change financial and corporate practices wholesale, it did score smaller victories. Fast food worker strikes in 2013 were believed to have been largely influenced by the movement, and the broader campaign to raise the minimum wage in the US to $15 per hour was also influenced. Later in 2014, a national strike by the fast food workers was joined by home care workers. International protests believed to have been affected by the Occupy Wall Street movement were also held in the United Kingdom, Japan, and Brazil. Subsequently, the campaign for the $15 minimum wage succeeded in several states and cities. Slowly, the protests ruffled important feathers. Their core tactic was disrupting routine work at corporate offices, and that was sparking demands to remove them and restore order. And as acts of violence were reported during the protests, the Department of Homeland Security found a pretext to start surveilling organizers and key protesters. On October 1st, 2011, thousands of Occupy Wall Street protesters started a walk on Brooklyn Bridge, effectively blocking the passageway. Police arrested 768 demonstrators. And so began a quest to have that fundamental inequality fixed through activism. Though the Zuccotti Park encampment was short-lived, it was removed on November 15th that same year, it inspired similar occupation protests elsewhere and not just in the US. Banks and corporate offices were stormed and physically occupied by protesters whose motto was, "We are the 99%. Protesters also occupied foreclosed houses. The demonstrators believed that the traditionally hardline financial policies had impoverished the ordinary American, hence the inability to repay loans. But the movement is also credited with having inspired activism and, more broadly, helped reinvigorate the political left. During the movement's life, left-wing political activists were energized across New York and 28 other cities in the United States. And the hashtag #MeToo and Black Lives Matter movements down the road are also said to have been modeled after the leaderless Occupy Wall Street protests. Quote-unquote, on September 17th, read an article in an anti-consumerist Canadian magazine that is believed to have originally sparked the Occupy Wall Street movement in the US. Quote, "We want to see 20,000 people flood into Lower Manhattan, set up tents, kitchens, peaceful barricades, and occupy Wall Street for a few months." End quote. While the demand was not met verbatim, it did give rise to a movement that went on to inspire other, perhaps more significant protests against inequality in America. Whether they continue to live and to affect change remains to be seen.